Now, if you watched my video for questions 14 and 15, it was a very long video, you saw me struggle. You saw how confusing a pair of questions can be when the line references are confusing, when the choices are very similar. There's a lot going on. Here, I do not think we have that problem. I think this is the exact opposite situation, so it's a nice little contrast. We're gonna find matching ideas much more easily here, and my confidence in both my answers will be much higher. So let me show you what I mean. So first, we got to make sure that we know what we're looking for when we go to these line references. Based on the passage, to which of the following hypothetical situations would Malhotra most strongly object? So Malhotra most strongly object. Okay, cool. Now the reason that this is an important question or is a weird question is hypothetical situations means that all of these answer choices are outside of the passage. Normally we're not allowed to use any information outside of the passage to answer the questions, but this question is forcing us to. It's something outside. So we still need to use the passage itself to prove the answer. So these line references are going to be very important here. Let's take a look. We want something that Malhotra would object to. We're going to find matching ideas. Find matching ideas. Malhotra objects. Line reference A, 36 to 37. So here we go. Here. Never published, definitely disappointed to not see any major effects. Okay, said another. Another what? Said one scientist. In their emailed responses, this is not Malhotra's team. This is the team asking other people, other scientists, what happened with their results, and the responses, they're saying that they never published them. So I don't know what Malhotra would object to. He's not talking here. This is other people, not even on his team. So this choice is just wrong because it's just completely different people. B, lines 45 to 48. Let's see, 45 to 48. That's right here. Overall, 42% of the experiments produced statistically significant results. Of those, 62% were ultimately published compared with 21% of the null results. Okay, well I don't know what Malhotra would object to. That's just like a statement of the results. It's the facts. There's no objection here. So nothing for Malhotra to object to. 62 to 68. Okay. Here to here. Even more troubling to Malhotra. I mean, come on. Talks about Malhotra. It's something troubling. Probably something he would object to. That's matching ideas. Basic. So even more troubling to Malhotra was the fact that two scientists whose initial studies didn't work out went on to publish results based on a smaller sample. The non-test version of the same study in which we used a student sample did yield fruit, noted one investigator. So a lot of science-y jargon in there, but a smaller sample. Okay, fine. So I'm going to write that down just so I can keep track of what it's saying. Let's see if D is any better. But the lines in C there, even more troubling to Malhotra, matches perfectly with the question in 16. It's like dead on accurate. That's really good, a really good sign. What is D? 69 to 73. So that's here to here. A registry for data generated by all experiments would address these problems, the authors argue. They say it should also include a pre-analysis plan, that is, a detailed description of what the scientist hopes to achieve and how the data will be analyzed. Well, that's a solution, not a problem. So there you go, gets rid of that. This is rare that we go through this process and we end up with one line reference that we are confident is correct. But because those words are so similar in the line reference and in the question, I am certain that that is right. It matches perfectly and none of the other choices even come close. That's good. That's what we want. But now let's match the ideas a second time as we try to make sure that in 16 we pick an answer choice that is supported by that line reference. So let's see what they say here. A research team refuses to publish null results in anything less than a top journal. Well, they didn't talk about the quality of the journal in that line reference, so that seems wrong to me. A research team excludes the portion of data that produced null results when reporting its results in a journal. Well, excluding the portion of data matches very nicely with it being a smaller sample. It's not as dead on as the other stuff before, but it's certainly very, very close. Let's look at C and D and see if there's anything better. A research team unknowingly repeats a study that produced null results for another research team. Well, no, repeating a study was not mentioned, so that's gone. A research team performs a follow-up study that expands the scope of an initial study that produced no results. Well, no, expand is the opposite idea that I want. I want a smaller sample, something being smaller. This is reversing that and making it bigger. So no, that does not work. So again, I've got only really one good match here, B and C. So a lot of times when we do this process of elimination, we're looking for things that are wrong and we're getting rid of them. And we did a little of that here. But especially because it's a hypothetical situation, something outside of the passage that's being brought in, I want to summarize it in the dumbest way possible and try to just match the ideas as simply as I can. That's what we did here. They use slightly different words, but the idea remained the same, and that's what you want to do, is narrow your focus to smaller pieces of what's going on. Do I really understand Malhotra's state of mind? Do I really understand the null results and the studies? Not really. I'm just going by the very literal things that they're saying here. So it's a good example of how a confusing science passage can actually be much simpler than it seems, because they're not asking about the science. They're asking about things like objections, and you can boil the science down to maybe a word or two and then match it with a choice. These choices are not as similar as they might seem, and just focusing on this one phrase here, smaller sample, told me everything I needed for the choices. So have some confidence that this works, and you won't be intimidated when you read confusing things. You'll just know that you'll be able to sort through the confusing stuff and find the littler pieces that matter most. Stuff in the questions, stuff in the choices. That matters more than the whole totality of the passage.